Welcome everyone, it's that time of the week. Welcome to Oz by Drone. I'm Greg. And he's muted.
There I am. Hi everybody. Great to be with you. I'm John.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a great show this week. We've got all of our regular news, and we're going to also talk to a guest, Rich. We're going to talk about a bit of a compare and contrast between photogrammetry in the USA versus Australia. A little mini workshop. John and Rich are going to compare those a little bit later.
Gonna be fun.
Before we do, what's been happening for you this week, John?
Good stuff. I've been doing some approvals and going crazy, working through those CASA regs again. And I was having a look through the latest one on flying within 30 metres of people with micros. So
did you say CASA regs? I see Lloyd's already snoring in the background there.
Yeah, that's the indicator. He's gone. But it looks like the FAA now have got a pathway that you can have micro drones within 30 metres of people, provided you contain rotating parts. There's a problem. If you've got to put the propeller guards for the Mavic Mini and some of the others, they go over the 250 gram limit. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that space, because obviously to meet those requirements, you've got to contain the propellers. Any chance of lacerating skin is the marker. So that's been interesting to read through that, see where that goes. One day it might come up to a kilo, where we can fly a 1 kilo aircraft and have those.
There's a simple answer, There's a simple answer. You've just got to have rubber propellers.
Rubber propellers. There you go. That won't lacerate the skin.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're going to get into our show, but it's interesting you talk about the sub 250 gram category. Our first news story is going to have a look at something new in that space. But just before we get into everything, if you're watching today for the first time, thank you for coming to join us. Please do click the subscribe and the like button. It helps other people to get visibility of our channel if YouTube thinks we're a young, vibrant channel with young hip-hop people that, well, maybe we're not that, but... It's all good.
We failed that one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kill the music, and we're going to go into, as my mouse stops moving across the screen, that button there, and we're going to have a look at the news.
What about our air data UAV?
Absolutely. Oz by Drone is brought to you by Air Data UAV. Is your drone healthy, or is it about to surprise you on your next flight? Don't wait to find out. Discover under the hood information and review the early signs of problems before you take off again. Use the discount code OzByDrone20 for a 20% discount. There is a link to their website in the description. And don't forget also, you can get a free version of that service. You don't have to pay anything. Go and check it out.
Yep.
So our first story today is the Zeno. You've heard of the Zeno, I'm sure, John?
Yep, I've had a fly of the heavier one, the one that's more like a Spark or something, a bit bigger than this one. But I think this is a new one, right?
It is absolutely the ultra lightweight Husband Zeno Mini Pro. They had to call it a mini, didn't they?
Looks familiar.
249 gram drone that looks like a solid DJI Mini 2 competitor on paper is now available for pre-order in the US. It comes with a 1 1/3 inch 48 megapixel CMOS camera that films at 4K at 30 frames per second. But here's the good one. The drone can fly for, wait for it, 40 minutes on a single charge, which means that it gives you an extra 9 minutes of playtime compared to the Mini 2.
I wonder how far you can fly it, interestingly.
Does that answer your question?
Well, that's a good starter, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, it's some nice marketing, but I tell you what, 10 kilometers for a start. You've got 4K 30 frames per second. The flight time and one that people are, unless you're a video person, you won't even think about it so much. HEVC. You familiar with that codec at all?
Yes, I am. I've heard of that. Yep, for sure.
Basically, packing more data in so you can get a higher quality if you're live streaming, for example. And they didn't actually say live streaming. That may only be for recording. But if it's available for live streaming as well, that's going to be a really nice one.
It just shows how much interest there is in this micro market. You know, I think we're going to see a lot of that now. Registration coming all throughout the world, and 250 gram not having to be registered in most countries. It's just going to see it explode for sure. And that's a pretty strong aircraft. What's interesting about the Mini 2 DJI was the controller. One of the strengths of that aircraft was the fact that they use the air controller, and it's a great unit for flying the airplane. Well, I believe options eventually to have the smart controller fly it. I wonder what the new Husband has got in terms of a controller.
Yeah, have to wait and see. But
does the job.
Yeah, so specifically, let's just review what is CASA's current and your predicted future position on sub-250s in Australia.
Well, what we had originally was we had a 100 gram limit where the 30 metre rule didn't apply. When they changed the micro category up to 250 grams, of course, we had the 30 metre rule. So that's where we're at the moment. You still can't fly a micro within 30 metres, in this country anyway, from people not involved in the operation. So we're just talking the FAA is moving forward with having containing the propellers. We can see that happening here, I reckon, too. CASA have already opened the door to that happening, and also operating more than one micro aircraft at a time. Now, this allows the swarm technology, which has been sort of struggling to get a foothold because of the limitations inside legislation about flying more than one aircraft at once. So, yeah, few interesting things there, because micros just aren't these two aircraft, the Mini DJI. When you get down to swarm technology, there's a lot of aircraft in even half that weight that are doing amazing things.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to our next story for the moment.
Wake up, Lloyd.
We're finished with CASA. This one is titled Skylink, and Air Market have carried out a successful live demonstration of a system designed to safely operate multiple drones for surveillance, infrastructure, monitoring, and more. Oh, I forgot to edit that little bit out to save some time. There we go. So I'm going to let this play the entire thing, because I think, especially with what you're doing, John, and what Rich is doing when he comes in later, this software looked very interesting. Having a look at different risks that I don't know if you currently capture. The cell tower connectivity in the place that you're taking off from, for example. Now, not that that is 100% required, but for some jobs it may be. Automatically cross-referencing with NOTAM data. This is the one I mentioned before, going and setting your location of where the cell site is, or where you are relative to the nearest cell site, and understanding the connectivity.
The graphics, I think it's
really,
aren't they?
It's really crazy that they're tracking the aircraft location relative to a cell site. It should be your control site, but that aside.
Nice report too.
Flight authorization requests. The other systems around have that. It was just another system that I thought was worth having a look at, called Air Market.
That's good. It's very much like what we use for AVCRM, looking at it, which is great. Basically authorizing, but also these apps now plug into your authorization zones. So that's kind of nice for airport work and stuff too.
It's interesting you mentioned airport work. There's a lot of airport-related stuff we're going to have a look at today. We'll stop the story there.
Yep.
But yeah, do go and check it out. The links to all of the stuff that we have today are in the description for the video. You can go and click on those. And in fact, I encourage you to do that so you can see the whole thing and support those original creators. Let's move on to our next story, number 3 for the day. Now, a group at the Czech Technical University has been testing drone swarms in the deserts of the United Arab Emirates. The project seeks to explore the possible application of massed drones in humanitarian search and rescue operations. Now, what makes this interesting? Well, looks like the titler has died for the day. I'll turn that off. There we go.
Where's this?
This is in Czech Technical University. Now, what makes this interesting from a drone perspective, they're modeling nature and animals and how they swarm and flock together, and having a look at the equidistance kind of detection algorithm that's kind of in a bird's head, keeping the same distance away from each other. So they're testing this in the deserts of the United Arab Emirates. This is the location where they're testing it, but it was a Czech university set of research.
Well, it's going to be a nice flow on to our guest this week, actually. Looking at the way we process data that we capture, it's going to be good.
Absolutely. So this is the Multi-Robot Systems Group at that particular university in Prague, testing drone swarms. So do go and check that out. Just a quick little comment to Rich, if you can hear me, your picture has gone to black. We've been, there we are, he's come
there
back.
He is.
So
he's back.
Okay, cool.
Great, interesting story. A little quick one. We had a little plug for an Australian company called Unleash Live, who are taking the back-end data for animal counting and species tracking, and they can do it live. So while you're flying over, they're actually using AI to tag animals and, see if they can monitor their movements and so forth. Not with a swarm like that. That's very high tech. But I had to talk to them this week about koala tracking, which was interesting, doing some night stuff with counting koalas. So,
Speaking of tagging and tracking, something that I did see during the week that didn't make it in one of the stories we're covering today, there was a death in the water. I can't remember what town it was off. It was on the north coast somewhere. A shark attack.
Yep.
And did you hear about it? Tuncurry, was it?
Tuncurry, a Newport surfer. Yeah, they went and tagged a few sharks afterwards, but they're using a lot of UAVs to capture, looking for it, and also the capture of the shark.
Yeah, I guess the question I've got is that I did read that it was already tagged, but we're not using that tagging data as part of our detection techniques. That was kind of a bit disappointing.
Yeah, interesting. It wasn't a great white either, apparently, so it was another type of shark, which is unusual.
Yeah. Speaking of the water, though, and the titles, I'm just not going to press the button because it's not working. Kite surfing.
Yeah.
What do you get when you mix kite surfing with an FPV drone? Some amazing video footage showing all skill all round. Just look at this. Now, we don't have any music with that today. The music I didn't have access to, but the vision is absolutely incredible.
Oh, and that's something.
Now, from a piloting perspective, that one would be certainly more challenging. I don't know that I'd want to do it myself even if I had the skills, just by the thinking about the strings and cables and all of that. It's an extra dimension in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good stuff, isn't it? Wow, what a way to capture it.
Yeah.
I suppose you can see how high they're flying too, because you can measure, obviously the aircraft's fairly high. These guys are flying up in the air.
Yeah, definitely getting some airtime. Big air kite surfing.
Fantastic.
Okay. We've got, speaking of getting some air, this one is something that was captured by a drone, or I believe it was a drone. No proof of that, but it came into the drone feed, so it must have been. A cat jumped out of a window during an apartment fire in Chicago and survived the fall. It was all caught on video. We think flown from a drone. Maybe he's down to 8 lives when he survived the fall unharmed.
Watch this. Here we go. Roll the video.
Flying cat.
I'll get it out. This is a lucky cat in the Inglewood neighborhood. Fire at the apartment building at 65th and Low. This cat will jump several stories. There it goes.
Oh.
Boop. Yep. You can see the cat leaping out of the window, bouncing on the grass, and just walking away. Oh, we slowed it down here. The Chicago Fire Department shared this on Twitter and said that the cat was fine. As far as the fire goes, that's out now. No one was hurt. That's a long way to go.
It is. You can hear the people.
You're screaming.
They're incredible, aren't they?
We've talked about this in the newsroom.
I want to share this. Now, look at the way he flattens himself out. Let's kill that for now.
That is okay.
Okay. The way he flattens himself out and ultimately becomes a sail or a parachute with his own body. And it's interesting that I was watching the other day, the Mark Rober video about his squirrels.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that one where he's got a squirrel obstacle course, and similar thing, when they're landing, they turn themselves into a big sail.
So here's the thing, we've been working on all these drone parachutes, and what we really need is to hook a cat or a squirrel up to it, you know, and that would solve the problem, you know, you could just have the cat hanging on.
I was actually going there because if you've got your gap in the X part of your frame, and you had something that was inside that frame that you could bring out to effectively form a sail.
I think you got to talk to the cat about this first. I mean, there's got to be negotiation going on first with the cat, I reckon. Not going to be happy.
Yeah, but do you see that would? Do you think that'd fly? Pardon the pun.
A flying cat. I've seen a cat turn into a quadcopter before from a taxidermist. That was interesting, but I don't need to see it again.
According to Ken Heron, who just gave you a $10 super chat, that was almost catastrophic.
It was did you say it was a catastrophe?
Yeah.
Catastrophe.
Well, catastrophic.
We're not at
I
the
read
joke.
it wrong. Okay.
We're not at the joke
But
section
anyways,
yet.
thanks, Ken.
Yeah, Ken.
So Ken, I've got to, being the person that you are, of course. Okay, moving right along. Okay, the next one that we've got.
Guest.
Well, we've got one more, or is that
okay,
it? Good. Hang on, as I scroll up here. No, that's it. We've got through story number 5. Let's go bring in our guest. Hello, Rich.
How are you guys doing this evening? Well, morning for you.
We're doing fine. Now, just briefly tell me, Rich, what was your surname? How do you pronounce it, first of all? Because it was confusing for me.
Rich Charpentier. So,
Charpentier.
And if you're in Canada, Charpentier.
Charpentier. Right. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm a little far away from Canada now, down in Arizona.
Okay. And you do some drone business flying, commercial flying yourself?
Yep. So the bulk of what we do now is actually commercial drone flights. So and we're going to talk about photogrammetry, but one of the biggest parts of my business, it's been blowing up recently, is actually doing construction site progression work. So that means video, that means stills, that means time lapses, and in some cases, modeling for the clients as well.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of fun, and certainly site progression work. Hopefully construction progresses continually, so hopefully you get an ongoing revenue stream from that. Today, I want to do something a little bit different. Instead of me doing a lot of the interviewing, I'm going to get you and John to have a chat. We'll see if we can bring up the 2-shot there. And the idea is to compare and contrast both the tools you use, how you do what you do in photogrammetry, and maybe the regulations that apply in your country. So, John, take it away.
That's great. Look, first thing I want to know, Rich, is, a lot of our photogrammetry work is out in the bush where we can sort of fly these surveys, not in built-up areas. How do you manage doing a survey in a built-up area?
Well, so first off, we have a lot of open land here in Arizona as well. So a lot of the requests I've been getting lately have been raw land sites getting ready to start builds, both residential as well as commercial properties. And when we start looking at the more denser populated areas, especially where I'm at, a big part of Prescott, Arizona is within 5 miles of KPRC. So doing Lance requests or looking for longer term authorizations, which is something that I'm looking into now, because we have a lot of new construction literally at the end of a runway. So that actually becomes problematic, and you have to set up the authorizations, put in the requests, talk about, you know, your safety procedures. So a lot of the builders who are in the proximity to some of these airports right now, they're still not using drone services. I've actually noted with some of the new builds in our areas that realtors do not have drone imagery, and the reason is because they've got to take those extra steps. And so most of my clients, fortunately, have been either within Lance, the low altitude authorization notification, or they've been outside of that radius. So one of the new clients I picked up is 27 miles north out of town and uncontrolled airspace, which makes life really easy on me.
Very easy, yeah. So jumping forward into the workflow, do you work with a surveyor? Do you have a licensed surveyor that tags and positions all your data?
At the moment, we haven't had any requests from clients for 3D modeling. So we have had orthomosaic requests. Very happy to work with surveyors. And I've actually been trying to get in with a couple of the survey groups here. In the meantime, though, what's interesting, what I'm getting more requests from construction companies and investment bankers, venture capitalists who are backing these projects, is they want time-lapse series. They want to be able to see what's happening with the projects. And in the case of a lot of these folks, one of the big things is time savings for them, not having to come in and check the status of the projects. So instead, they're having us do regular flights of the projects. And, you know, it's saving them flight time, hotel time, out of office time. So it's been very interesting because in my talks with each of the new clients, they seem to be much more fixated on video fly-throughs and also the orthomosaics. So those are the two big components. And what I haven't had a lot of requests for, and I try to sell it regularly, is actually doing some modeling work with them as well. And it's been very interesting, the conversations that I've had over the past couple of years. They want simple, show me the changes oftentimes.
Yep, that's really a clear line, though, when you're doing photogrammetry work, because one is a visualization. So an ortho or a video or whatever is just visualizing the survey area, and creating the point clouds with a surveyor is giving you the actual DTM model.
And actually, for all of our clients, normally, while we offer our specific set of services, if they're not looking for modeling, there's a high probability you'll catch me making a model anyways, just in case, on the Mac side. Well, and when we actually do our deliverables with the clients, we provide them with their own private web pages. But we also do Dropbox with them, and I do supply them with data because at some point, I'm hoping that some architects will step in and some more surveying will step in. We just got through getting a new property with a set of clients and investors. It's a 700-acre ranch area that they're going to be subdividing into 22 home sites. So they're going to be wanting a lot more documentation. So my hope is that we're going to have a survey engineer step in as they're divvying up the parcels.
Cool. What aircraft are you flying?
I'm flying Mavics right now, but we're actually going to be swapping out. So I'm spoiling something for my own live stream, folks. Phantom 4 Pro 2 is in the future here because I want the mechanical shutter. I have to slow all my flights down because of the electronic shutter. So I do a lot of photography as well. So I understand the difference between the two shutter applications. And I just like to step up at this point since we're getting more business. I want that mechanical shutter at this point.
I think the other thing
Can
about
I just jump in? Can I just jump into the previous question for a sec? When you're going and capturing the data for point clouds ahead of time, even if the customer didn't ask for it, does that turn into them wanting something from that data? And what kind of percentage of time does it?
Yeah, so when we're setting these up on the smaller properties, we've done multifamily residentials as well as single family residentials. And oftentimes the customers don't know what to ask me for. So I'll get somebody calling me who's not necessarily on the construction side. And so doing these additional presentations, capturing that extra data, if I'm going to run an extra battery or two, it actually turns out to be worthwhile for me. One of my favorite clients that we did almost a 2-year project for, in the beginning, they suggested that they just wanted still images around the site once a month. So I asked them, I said, would you mind me going to the job site beforehand, doing some flights? Maybe I could meet the job site foreman. And we did some extra flights. So I threw some video, some 360s, and the orthomosaic modeling. The number one requested thing after the first flight from everybody in that business was time-lapse orthomosaic. So we actually show before and afters from month to month, just to give them that full overview of the 5-acre property. And so it is very worthwhile to spend a little extra time, even if it's a simple model, as a demonstration of their own property. So
Yeah, sure.
it's a little extra time invested, but it's been incredible to me because for some of the clients, that ortho has become everything, because that tells them the story of why they're behind or why they're on schedule.
Well, you'll find when you go to the Phantom 2, you'll notice that the lens is much more even across. It's an actual better lens apart from the mechanical shutter. We've got a Phantom 4 that we've had the M-lid GPSs on. So we've had an M Plus, now we're using an M2, multi-band GPS with the helical aerial and so forth, and a base station. So we've made up a sort of a version of the Phantom 4 RTK, but doing PPK. So that's a great thing. You don't need to put as much control out. The orthos are much tighter. The stitching happens much quicker. All that kind of stuff really works when you include the PPK GPS stuff, of course.
Yeah, it's been very interesting here because my expectation, we're an hour and a half north of Phoenix. There's a lot of construction going on in Arizona. There's a lot of people moving into Arizona. And the limited requests that we've had so far, it's not limited by what we'll offer to them. It's actually limited by the construction companies and what they're requesting, which has been extremely surprising. I've spent years now building up my work for photogrammetry, thinking this is going to be the most asked for thing. And
it will be.
Instead, instead they're asking for much more simple things than I ever expected here in 2021. So,
well, hold my beer, because it's going to grow, of course. As things go. Have you seen the camera that goes onto the crane at a construction site? So Pix4D have a stitch algorithm for a crane camera. And of course, it makes perfect sense if you want a 3D model a building coming up underneath you. The camera, just while the crane's working day and night, it's taking photos underneath the crane and able to stitch them together. So, that's a nice way to work.
Yeah, no, it is.
Not much flying.
No, not much flying at all. It's been, I have yet to see a crane on any of the sites, the camera cranes on any of the sites so far. And I'm actually going to be starting another new multifamily residential here next Sunday. And once again, it was just a very limited set of requests from them for what they can get. So they're going to be getting an orthomosaic on the house. So
what do you use to stitch, Rich? What do you use to stitch the images for orthos?
So I use Metashape at this point. So after, tried out Pix4D, also dealt with, Maps Made Easy. In the end, I decided to go to Metashape so that we could do all the processing here. And I like a lot of the features in Metashape. So, it's a little more hands-on, for uploading your GCPs and things, but it's worked out very well. And the other nice thing with it for people who are starting out, the Metashape standard is actually, it's a reasonable license fee. I think it's $179 now for people who want to start out with doing some 3D modeling and get their feet wet with it. And that's where I started out with them several years ago now.
Cool. Oh, look, I while people are listening to it, and to sort of bring it back to point, if you want to check this out, you can obviously with a capture app, whether it's Maps Made Easy, Drone Deploy, or Pix4D Capture, take your airplane out and run the software, grab the images, and throw it on one of these programs and see what you get.
Absolutely.
Just give it a go.
I always suggest to folks, because I have people on my YouTube channel ask all the time, these are all super expensive, and what do I use? What do I pick? Almost every one of these app makers and then the photogrammetry software makers give you a free trial period.
Yeah.
So my biggest suggestion is don't go get all the trials immediately. Get one at a time. Give yourself the time to try it out. Because if you run out and you download everybody's software and they all expire at the end of the same month and you didn't get enough flying time, you didn't get enough testing time.
Yeah, it's good advice.
So yeah, no, it's it's one of the big ones. Give yourself practice time. And so the stitching software and the flight software, even though these do the grids for you and you can set up orbits with some, you need that practice time of flying those job sites as well.
Yep.
Just
Absolutely.
a quick little jump into some of our chat. Surveying rules should be made clear so that you're okay, as a comment from Zebmeet.
Yep.
Drone Shots is saying try Zephyr 3DF for free. It's cool.
Yep.
So interesting stuff there. We have had previous discussions on surveying rules, and definitely that has been a challenge for some parts of the US with drone operators getting prosecuted.
Yes, well, in the US, so each state has its own survey engineering board. So some of the boards are, so it is a state by state. And what you were mentioning, I've seen some of the suits. I know about the suit in North Carolina right now, and I'd actually followed that story from when everything came up for that pilot. And so it is a state by state issue. So one of the things we have a disclaimer on our site. I always have the conversations with all of my clients. We're not doing property lines or things for you. The realtors really, really love property lines. And some of the state survey engineering boards want to keep a really tight rein on that. So even putting up the disclaimers, sometimes you could still get a phone call from somebody. So it's a state by state situation. So for the state you're flying in here in the US, you need to check and see, what the policies have been. Have there been any suits? Have there been any issues for other pilots in your state? Here in Arizona, it seems like they're not too interested or worried about us.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think there's a point of difference in terms of tackling that kind of thing. One of the things that we've found now,
Oops. And John has just had his internet freeze. So
I thought it was just me.
hang on a second.
No, he's definitely having some fun over there. Look, before
How are we going? Am I back?
Well, you're back, but let me throw in a quick question, because the second part that I did want to look at today was differences in laws and regulations, and part of that's around surveying kind of laws, but also if you could add to that comments on your high-level checklist of things that you need to abide by from a regulatory perspective where you operate, and we'll compare and contrast that with what John mentions in a minute for Australia.
Well, so for here and where I'm working out of Arizona, so if we're outside of controlled airspace, I can fly. There's no restrictions or anything on whether I'm doing modeling or standard imaging. When we come into where we're in controlled airspace, of course, I always check with Kitty Hawk to see, am I going to need a Lance request? Are we going to need to do further authorizations if the proximity to the airports is too close? So the authorization process can take some time. You're submitting to the FAA, kind of, before Lance, folks were doing the wide area authorizations and waivers as well. So it's gotten a little simpler with Lance, but once we start getting into the controlled airspace areas, we've got to pay really close attention because also, you know,
Sure.
if you get an approval for up to 200, but the construction site is going to be needing more, you have to circle back with the FAA to, you know, reapply. So.
Coming back to the surveying stuff, one of the things that we've found in our business is rather than try and get all this state stuff, you know, and working across states and regulations for surveyors, is actually fly for the surveyors. So if the work's coming from them and they're doing the boundaries and everything, you're just giving them photogrammetry data to build a point cloud mixed in with their accurate data and sanctioned data, if you like, or approved data.
Yeah.
Easy way to go. And look, surveyors, a lot more surveyors are flying these days. We notice, but there's still plenty of room for those more difficult sites, like you say, flying controlled airspace and so forth, where they're going to want an operator, you know, knows what they're doing with all of those things in place, capture that data in that more, difficult area. But again, once you're doing that, you've got the disclaimer. They can make anything they like out of it in terms of a stitch. And as I say, you've got no... we think that that's the business for us, because looking across, you know, providing certified documents as far as orthos and models go, at the end of the day, you've got to have a surveyor sign it anyway.
Absolutely.
So why not just go to the surveyor and say, what do you need? We'll go fly it. You put your moniker on it, give it to the client. You know, it's going to happen anyway.
And that's, and that's what I'm working towards. So mostly we've been dealing directly with construction companies. They've already had it surveyed. So they're looking for that, you know, the information and progression. I will say that one of the suits here in the U.S. that had come up a couple years ago was another North Carolina pilot. And I don't know if it's the same one who's involved in this right now, but they were actually doing work on behalf of a licensed survey engineering firm. And they were still notified by the survey engineering board afterward that only surveyors should be doing this. So they were actually working for a survey company, and the drone pilot still ran into issues with the board afterward. So it's really good to know, you know, if you're in the U.S., what are the survey engineering board's feelings on drone operations in their state?
Perhaps if there was an ability to go and split up the job into multiple parts and have Morrison Aerial Robotics flight imagery capture and then Morrison Aerial Robotics photo stitching, where you've got these different business units and each of them very clearly, even in the name, says, this is what I will deliver. You can buy those things. And then you've got Morrison Aerial Robotics surveying consultancy, where you outsource to a licensed survey only for that component. Maybe that's a way around it.
Well, you're always going to have the thing with construction companies too. They're going to want to have those documents, those licensed documents. They're going to want to have. I mean, it's just a different stream, really. I think it covers it all, as Rich said. You know, you're going to end up probably someone with a new development, a family development. They just want a picture of where their house is going to go. They want an aerial of the area. So it covers all bases, really. You just got to be careful about what you claim to be producing and what you actually are producing. So visualization is the word. Just put that on everything that you provide, and that's all it is. It has no other purpose than to visualize what you captured.
Yeah, we actually, with what we do for our deliverables for clients, we'll actually hand off custom pages for them afterward. So they can have all their information in one place. And on all those custom pages, we always have our disclaimer of what we can do, what we can't do, and that we're not a replacement for survey engineers. And I would love to pick up some survey engineering groups in the area, because we've got a lot of building going on. So
I reckon it's time to wake up Lloyd and play again.
Well, before we do, just a quick little catch up. Trevor made a comment. John needs to put another penny in the internet connection. In response to that, Wayne King, hi Greg and team, who's given us a $10 super chat. Thank you for that. And if I scroll back a little bit further, Zeb Meat has got a $9.99 super chat. Let's jump. And one more. Artco Drone Solutions has got a $5 super chat for flying cats. Now that's a show, Greg. So flying cats, I think that was something a little out of the ordinary for our show. Let's move on. We've got something that we like to do at this time of the day. Now, I don't know if the old title thing is going to work here. Let's just try and press the button anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to play Stop the Yang.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're going to play Stump the Yang. This is a game where we like to have a bit of fun and make fun of our guest, basically by asking him some Aussie trivia that only we know about, plus our honorary Aussie, Lloyd the Grump Mendenhall. G'day, Lloyd.
Hello. And hello, everybody.
Fire
out
away,
there.
Lloyd.
Yes.
We're ready for you today, mate.
Okay. Okay, we're going to start out with this one. Do you know what a dog's eye is? A dog's eye. Is it a meat pie? Is it a really bad look somebody gives at you, sort of like Popeye? And or is it a favorite Australian drink?
Ooh.
Okay, what do we got there, Rich?
I'm going to go with option 2.
Option 2.
Now, here's the clue, though, Rich. To get you a little bit closer, if you have a dog's eye, you usually have it with dead horse.
Okay.
That's what you
Now,
usually
Aussies
do.
are known
There's the
for
clue.
this rhyming thing. So, a dog's eye is a meat pie.
And dead horse is red sauce.
It's red sauce. Yeah.
Ketchup. Dog's eye and dead
Okay.
horse.
Now, what is a chook? Is it, maybe a chicken? Or is it a beer? Yes, Aussies love their beers.
You just got to call everything after a drink.
Yeah, exactly. Or is it an avocado?
I'm going to go with beer.
It was a chicken.
It's a chicken. Well,
However,
All right.
there's a modification to it you can have. You can be a silly chook, right, which is an action that you can do. Silly chook is when you do something stupid. So there's that as well. And that doesn't mean you're being a stupid chicken.
And you can also have a chook referring to someone who's tall. Your gangly chicken, a gangly chook.
Yeah,
But
gangly
anyway.
chook.
Right.
Yeah, we have chook raffles here. We raffle chooks.
Okay, let's see if I got.
And can I just share one more, only in Australia kind of comment? We had, let me put myself up on screen. We had a show ages ago called Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Yep.
And you know where I'm going with this, John?
Yep, the chook.
Chook
Pluck a
Lotto.
duck.
No, before Pluck a Duck,
Yeah, it was
we
chook lotto,
actually
wasn't it?
had 10 sizes of frozen chickens put into a big ball barrel kind of thing with a hole, and the number of your lotto game is based on the size of the chicken that comes out.
Wow. There you go.
Chook Lotto, only in Australia.
There's
Okay.
a great video of firing. Oh, sorry, Lloyd,
Well-
you go ahead. Do it.
I want to do one last one. Okay. Let's see which one do I want. Let's go with, what is a snag? Is it a sausage? Is it a fish on a hook? Or
A
is
beer.
this one the Australian beer?
Oh, that's tricky, that one.
I'm going to go with a fish on a hook.
It is.
Actually, no. It was a sausage.
All right.
And though, when we do get a fish, a hook caught on the bottom of the ocean, when you're trying to get, that's called a snag too,
Yeah,
right?
snag too. Yes.
That's a snag too, right?
is-
Yeah, I'm thinking the fish on the hook.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one more quick one. What is a banger
Okay.
sanger?
Banger sanger.
Oh, it's
No, I haven't got any.
it's a
I haven't got
sandwich.
any
It's a
plan.
sandwich.
The sanger
But,
is
it's
the
a-
sandwich, yeah.
Yeah.
Sandwich, yeah.
It's a snag
And
sandwich.
a banger is a
Sausage.
Is that a sausage?
Yeah.
Sausage sandwich, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sausage sandwich. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. There we
Okay.
go. Look, there was a little bit of fun and frivolity just because we need to mix it up a little bit. Thank you, Rich, for being with us today. Do stay
Yeah,
in
man.
the chat. If people have got any questions about photogrammetry or indeed anything drone related out of your part of the world, Arizona, go and ask him. He'll be in chat for a little while.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us again, Rich.
Oh, much
Yeah, man.
appreciated. And if you don't mind, I'll turn the video off. So I know that I've been having some lag issues with the video there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no
but I'll
problem.
still be
Jump into the chat room. All good. Thank you.
here. All righty.
Okay, let's move on. Our next one over here. Oops. I didn't press that button. Okay.
Doesn't hurt though.
I pressed that one. There we go. Title for this one is Drone Strike. Fairfield Police released footage of a man hitting a drone with a baseball bat during a recent SWAT standoff. Police were responding to a call where it was alleged that a family member was destroying the home and tried lighting the curtains on fire. Police
Right.
arrived on scene and tried to get the man to come out, but he didn't comply. He was eventually taken into custody. But, John, what are the federal aviation regulations, either in the US or in Australia, that would apply to the following video?
Ouch.
Yeah. What did the poor drone do to him? Play that one more time. There we go. The poor drone.
Is it
The
looking
humanity.
in a window or a doorway?
Yeah, so I think this is a camera from the back window.
The back window, yeah. It's,
Yeah.
Sure. It's not a drone camera, of course.
The humanity. What did the poor little... think of the propellers.
Yeah, I know. Well, in this case, you wanted to know the legal side of it. There's a thing called lawful purpose. So if you were, say, someone's safety was involved, different things take over. So if law enforcement are using it for safety of the family, they need to use a drone to capture images. They want to know what's going on. All bets are off. So I think that would stand up in court too.
Yeah. Fair enough. I just thought I'd ask the dumb question. But anyway,
No, it's a
let's
good
move
question.
on.
He was actually
Lloyd?
being charged with violation or destruction of police property over that one too.
Yeah, right.
Lloyd, is there a reason why we
Yes.
can't see your face?
Yes.
Oh, there's lots of reasons.
I guess I've got my camera on standby. I just had to interject a little,
Yeah, of course.
little
Okay.
information there. So,
Okay.
to
Let's
have.
move on. Our next one, Chicago O'Hare
O'Hare.
International Airport. Let's pick that one. I think it was that one. No, that's the next one. Try again. Runway incursion. Here we go. Responsible drone pilots know only too well that an airport is not a good place to fly your drone. But if that's the case, how was this footage taken? It was published on the Chicago O'Hare International Airport Facebook page with the title, quote, "It's time for a Friday flyover."
Ooh. 30 times zoom. A lot further, actually. Or is that's not flight sim, is it? No.
No. Now, they didn't actually publish on their website, but, this sounds like airport personnel going and actually doing this. Let's loop that and play that again. This sounds like airport personnel actually going and taking this footage and sharing it, which is fine. But it would have been interesting for them to share a little bit more information with it, because otherwise they're going to have other people going and saying, well, someone else posted this footage, let's us go and take something like that,
Well, Well, it could be a lot of things. I mean, a lot of airports now are exploring runway inspection. So you
I know,
use
and I get it. Yeah.
UAV to fly over the movement area and see if there's any on the runway or chase birds off or whatever. So
this is one of 3 stories relating to airport and so on. Oops. What happened there?
We're in a nightclub.
You pushed the wrong button.
Yeah.
My producer's got her fingers mixed up today. Let's move on to our next one, which is this one. And this is at LAX, and it's a counter-UAS test. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, announced that it has selected Los Angeles International Airport to test cutting-edge anti-drone technology designed to weed out unmanned aerial vehicles from restricted airspace. TSA announced last week that similar technology will be tested at Miami International Airport beginning in early July. It is anticipated that the work on the test bed at LAX will begin in late summer of 2021. Now, we don't have any video with that, but
No.
I wonder if it's nothing more than Aeroscope, or are they going further? I don't know.
Look, whatever. Welcome to the party. I mean, this technology has been around for a while, of course, and, firmly plugged into Aeroscope, so you transmit your position and position on the ground and so forth. So, yeah, a whole network of them. We've got 28 airports covered in Australia with that technology already.
Yeah, 20.
So, yep, 28.
Are they only using Aeroscope, or are they using supplementary services as well?
They're upgrading. They're using supplementary services as well. But the future is going to have radar and acoustic, which they reckon is the next thing, rather than radio signature, because it's hard to pick up every type of UAV depending on what it's transmitting. But audio signature is definitely hard to mask. So it looks for the sound of the propellers, and off you go. Use Doppler effect, work out where the aircraft is, and narrow it down, and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of technology going into that, of course.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud how that would actually work, and if you can imagine some of the technology we use for streaming, ultimately you've got probably a LAN with a bunch of microphones with audio over Ethernet going back to a server somewhere. Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, let's move on to our next one. So airport surveillance is the next story. In a first, nighttime drone operations are being conducted at 2 US airports to test strategies for flying UAS safely in controlled airspace. Now, this is not the same story as the previous one, but let's check the video.
Savannah Airport is a pretty progressive airport. They're looking at all sorts of ways to use this data. Things like pavement analysis, fence inspection, wildlife management. We were able to accomplish quite a few collects that will give sort of a prototype data set to them. We're flying the newest cameras and the newest systems out there. At Savannah Airport, essentially we were trying to accomplish 3 missions: surveillance, surveying and mapping, and wildlife mitigation.
We broke up the zones so that each parameter could be met, that had optimal landing and takeoff zones that were safe for operation, we could maintain line of sight, and that the airport management approved as a safe operating area.
Each one of the zones had a particular mission that we were shooting for. We had a fence line that we wanted to collect and make sure that the resolution and everything was going to accomplish the mission. We had a wetland area where we were looking at beaver dams and other wildlife. The thermal camera becomes really valuable in terms of wildlife management mitigation.
It helps you see through the canopy too if there are leaf-on conditions. You could see a turtle or something in the water or right at the surface of the water a lot more clearly than if you were using just a normal red, green, blue camera.
So yeah, that video is much longer than that. I've just taken out a little bit of it to give you a taste of it, but good use of the technology at airports.
Yep, you're going to see a lot of that, that's for sure.
We've got one more... Sorry, go, John.
No, I was going to say, the regulations were all sort of put together to keep us out of airports, and now they're having to work around how you can actually allow them, aircraft to fly, UAVs to fly at airports, because they're going to be needed. So interesting change, watching the regulators try and catch up with that as well.
Yeah, just before we move on to our last story, I just had a thought back to the previous one. Ultimately, in Australia, if you've got something that's monitoring sound, regardless of where it is, would that be deemed to be surveillance?
Yep. If you track anybody's position without their permission, in New South Wales, you're surveilling them. Yeah, that's right. It's tracking. It's the actual act. Whatever you use, GPS, anything at all, you're tracking someone's location.
Yeah. So let's take away tracking, but just certainly listening devices. The Listening Devices Act relates to that as well. I'm just wondering how they get around that in the airport. Just an interesting thought.
Yeah, it comes down to lawful purpose and law. Once you're flying in airspace, you're trespassing over an airport. So once you're in trespass, that changes surveillance as well.
Absolutely, 100%. But I would say that there are people who work in the airports who are going to be going in and around where the microphones, receivers for those systems are going to be placed.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, just an interesting thought. We've had a couple of people, Zebmeet, commenting who would know about sound. Acoustic, he was pretty amazed by that as well. Zebmeet was interested in that one.
To give you a little heads up, if you want to go and look it up, Cloverdale are a company that are developing the acoustic radar. And so I think they're out of Europe, and they've already trialled some of their equipment in Australia, I believe, so down in Melbourne. So that's interesting.
Okay. Funkadelic. Now, we've got one more story. Let me go and press the button and see if it works one more time. Now, we've seen the stadium shot last week, and we've got more of it this week. But this time we're seeing how they did it and an audio recording of them actually talking through it. Look at this. This is amazing.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, the bottom half of the screen, the video we saw before, top half, the pilot.
Down the tunnel area.
And an observer. They've also got a 360 on top of the drone that you're seeing there.
To the Colin Bell and Etihad Stadium sign. Fantastic. And then we are banking left and going straight to the Puma box without needing to go high this time. Banking left. Yep, that's perfect. Absolutely brilliant. And then we'll find the Puma box and we go in. Luke, you let me know when we are clear.
Okay, now I'm going to stop the video there for a couple of reasons. Let's go back to the studio.
Back down past the dugout area, please, Andy.
Fantastic.
Now, I wanted to stop it for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I want you to go and click on the link that's in the description to see the entire thing, right? I don't want their video to be substituted with you've already seen it here. Go and support the original creator. But amazing, just looking at the thing and having a look at them doing that flight. You know, there were some people who said they didn't think it was real and they might have had CG and edited some bits together. This is proof not only of the one-shot take, but of the thinking and the communication that was happening as part of that.
That's what that video is about. It shows you, it gives you the insight to how much planning goes into doing that kind of shot. So that's what it's all about. It's not those things aren't freestyle. Mind you, a good freestyle pilot would have a great go at it. But of course, if a producer's looking for a particular way of showing something off, practice, 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 practice. All of the lines are planned. Yeah.
And you hear in the video that there were multiple takes and they were happy with that particular take at the end.
Sure.
Yeah. Can we talk about one more thing just before we go? So we've finished our stories officially, but I was talking to you before the show about the No Limit Drones radio
Absolutely.
Unit. Have people in our audience in the chat room today heard that there is a 2.5 watt radio mod, which is actually circuit boards that you're putting into your existing DJI drones that can give you higher power levels? John, have you heard about it much? Or
Only very briefly. So what they are, so you've still got OcuSync, and without mucking around with that, I believe they're signal amplifiers. So you might remember years ago we used to be able to replace the aerials, and before we had sort of OcuSync and longer range stuff, you would get these little Wi-Fi boosters, like 2 of them, one for each aerial, and then you would battery operated, and you'd be holding the controller like this with all of this gadgetry around it for boosting the signal. I think that's where we're going, because we always, when we're in CE land in Europe and Australia, our radio transmissions are limited compared to FCC, of course, where you have almost double, in some cases, the signal strength. So here we go. If you're working indoors and you're doing FPV, ties into that story very well. You need to have a really strong transmitter to, get through the walls and do all of that stuff. It's got to be absolutely, all the phones in the place would probably black out once you're running 2.5. It's watts, is it? 2.5 watts?
2.5 watts. And I've just pasted a link to, is that the right one? Yeah, No Limit Drones. I've pasted a link to it in the chat so our viewers can go and have a look at that.
Yeah,
I might actually put it in the video description afterwards as well. No Limit Drones is sending me one to have a look at, so I'll be very interested to have a look at that.
That'll be fantastic. Well, at 2.5 watts, as I said, you'll own the Wi-Fi. Nothing else will be going on.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You really need that strength.
And standard disclaimer, you need to be aware of the laws in your country and make sure you're always compliant with those. But I will say this, for someone who's doing that type of flying, they definitely wouldn't have been flying with stock standard radios.
Absolutely. And we're looking at ways, because we're flying indoors, we're flying contained areas, there's other things coming into play. So, that radio limit technology is catching up too as well. So if you've got a controlled environment, it's actually safer to boost the radio signal. So you've got good control of the aircraft, nothing's going to go wrong. And so it makes sense. It's a good safety case.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so with that, we've reached the end of the show and our news today. And I just do want to say at the end, our news is also supported by No Limit Drones. Do you feel like your drone is weighed down by chains when you're flying? Take the chains off and fly without limits. Check out nolimitdrones.com for more information. There is a link to their website in the description. Lloyd was doing something in the background. What was Lloyd doing?
He was flying away.
Okay, fair enough. Let's press a button or two. As always, if you want to send something to our show for inclusion, send it to upload@gregkunert.com. Please do follow us on social media, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, DLive, and many more. And lastly, our postal address is there for you, 5/127 Princes Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales 22224. I did have something else that was in my mind and it slipped out. I must have a hole in
You had
there.
a super
Lloyd,
chat.
I have a super chat.
Super chat.
Yes.
That wasn't it, but
FPV. And Joe Blaylock.
Northern Tier FPV, thank you very much. As always, a great show. Appreciate it. And Joe Blaylock, $9.99. Can we keep this up? I mean, I know I've heard of Ken's super chat train where he doesn't stop. Maybe not. I haven't got as many viewers.
I've got a bit of a theory today, though, for our super chat run, actually. I think Lloyd was really on his game today with Stump the Yank. I mean, there was some good stuff, and he won. He won the game. So I think that's really what kind of brought it home for everyone.
Oh,
and I also mixed it up.
Hang on, what was that? We got Rich there?
Oh, I said 3 for 3 for me. In the wrong direction.
Plus, I mixed up my order, because usually the answer is almost always the middle one.
Yeah, he always makes it the second one.
Right?
But he made it answer A for every one of them today. Every one.
Giving it away.
I included a beer question in every one.
Well, you got to put that in. You could have a D for beer. You could put beer on every one. Yeah, a name of a drink, or a way of drinking it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, before we go, since we've got our guest back here, one more quick funny joke from you. We were talking before. Have one joke ready. One from you, Rich. What
here
do you
we
got?
go.
I've got nothing right now.
Stump for Lloyd.
I warned you.
I know.
See, he didn't warn me, so I have no excuse. I mean, I have an excuse.
Look, we'll
he
leave it.
didn't
We'll
warn
leave
me.
it. That's fine. That's fine. Well,
Well,
let's do this.
there's the
Rich.
joke right there.
Okay. Rich.
He's a drummer who thinks he's a musician.
Boom,
Yeah,
boom.
that's right. I hang around with musicians.
That's it.
Okay. So, Rich, do you want last words from you before we go?
Oh, well, thanks for having me on. And like I said, sorry about the weird stream quality here today. I wish I could have done that a little better, but this was a fun chat. I hope it was useful for folks as well.
Okay. Yeah, we enjoyed having you on, definitely. And we'll go to Lloyd in the middle.
Well, I think Rich he was a good sport about it, and I'm glad he knew it was just in fun. And I want to say what I always say: remember, be kind, treat each other better than you would treat yourself. Remember, everybody matters, even drummers.
Even drummers. Well, in this case, the drummer doesn't matter because he's gone off the screen. He's disappeared. His connection's
He's
dropped
disappeared, of course, naturally. He bailed already. I just noticed that. So that's
Yeah.
why, anyways, yeah.
Okay. Look, thanks for being with us. Thanks for being part of the show. As you go today, as you leave, please click the thumbs up. Please share this video to somewhere, your Facebook page or somewhere like that. That'd be really helpful to get other people to go and hear about our show and help us to grow. And if you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Click the button. Thanks for watching. Thank you for being part of the show. Lloyd, I'll see you next time.
See you next time, everybody.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.